those of you who just came on, we're waiting just a few minutes for everyone else to file in. Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. It is 5 after 10. We can go ahead and get started with the meeting. Thank you all so much for your time today. If you all can record your attendance in the chat box, that'd be greatly appreciated. We'll have that together for the next meeting minutes. Thank you so much. Please state your name and your affiliation. While we're doing that, we can move on to item 2, the April 8th meeting summary. Are there any questions or concerns regarding the minutes from the April 8th meeting? All right, hearing none, we can move on to item 3, public comment period. Sid, do we have any public comments for this meeting?
We do not.
Thank you, awesome. Moving right along to item 4 will be our LRTP progress update. So this is our 2050 LRTP process flow. It starts with phase 1, our 2050 baseline data development. We began this by establishing our foundational metrics, looking at regional growth projections and current data trends. Our phase 2 with our scenario analysis. From there, we modeled different future pathways to understand potential impacts and regional variables. Phase 3 is our strategic direction. We set out our overarching goals and vision based on what we discovered during our scenario analysis. Phase 4 is our transportation needs assessment. With our goals defined, we evaluated the physical gaps in our system across transit, highways, and active transportation. Phase 5, our universal projects development. We then built out a massive unconstrained list of all potential projects that could address the identified needs. From here, we rank, sort, and physically constrain the list to fit to our projected budgets. In phase 6, phase 7 is our planned evaluation. Currently, we're in our evaluation phase, refining the list, reviewing it against land use scenarios and executing our air quality conformity steps. And we will get into those processes later in the presentation. And then finally, the plan adoption. All this builds towards our final milestone this September, where the completed plan will be brought forward for official adoption. So we've completed the strategic direction through agreements on vision, goals, and objectives and performance measures. We've identified the regional transportation issues and developed the region's needs assessment. We've developed the regional project inclusion guidelines, which lead into the creation of the universe of projects. The universe of projects was accepted by the advisory work group during the December 3rd meeting. We've completed our project prioritization implementation process through the development of our constrained plan investment scenarios, which then led to the development of the completion of our final constrained plan consensus funding scenario development. That was just a brief overview. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we can move forward to our next item, which is our LRTP Phase 6 constrained plan development of the consensus scenario. So we shared our 4 financial scenarios with our implementing project champions and the broader community to gather their input. Between February and April, Plan RVA staff actively sought feedback from both the public and our project champions. The responses revealed a clear division in preferences. About 86% of the public, or 104 of 121 of our respondents, expressed a strong preference for mode shift. Conversely, the project champions overwhelmingly performed the traditional usage scenario. So following that feedback, the advisory work group met in April to develop a new consensus scenario. This scenario balanced both the public's desires for a mode shift and the project champion's preference for traditional usage. So we began the process with a baseline of 123 projects that span both scenarios. To refine the list and avoid duplication, we removed projects that were already captured in the committed list, the committed project list, but also included in the constrained plan. Specifically, we removed 3 key projects: the North Gaten Road interchange in Henrico, the Meadowville Technology Parkway at 295 in Chesterfield, and the downtown and north side transfer center for GRTC. So as a starting point for this scenario, we factored in local requests for adding and removing projects. This alignment is critical for 2 main reasons. First, if the project lacks local support, it is highly unlikely to be developed anyway, even if it remains in our plan. Secondly, if we leave out key local priorities now, it usually leads to the need for plan amendments down the road. But after incorporating these local updates, we hit a major hurdle. The initial draft of the constrained plan exceeded our budget by approximately $500 million. So to address this $500 million gap, we entered the final step of the consensus scenario development process, which was a collaborative negotiated process where the advisory work group worked through the project list to develop to deliver a strictly constrained plan. To achieve this, the advisory work group settled on a three-pronged strategy. First, we removed proposed highway widening projects that simply weren't ready or likely to advance anytime soon. Second, we made tough calls to remove some projects that were local priorities. And third, we strategically added a few key active transportation and transit projects to keep moving forward. Beyond trimming the list down, we also revisited our proposed time bands to better align them with actual project readiness, priority level, and recent cost escalations. Ultimately, the group reached a full consensus, creating a balanced, financially sound plan that was officially advanced to the policy board for final approval during the April 23rd meeting, excuse me. Ultimately, the consensus scenario accomplished 2 critical goals. First, it achieved strict fiscal constraint. Every single project included in this list fits squarely within our projected revenue forecast through 2050, which fully satisfies our federal regulatory requirements. Second, it remains strong. It maintains a strong strategic alignment. It successfully reflects the priorities voiced by both the public and our stakeholders, while directly addressing the critical bottlenecks and safety concerns identified in the RTC model. So to break down this actually included in the final plan, we have a total of 121 projects valued at approximately $7.9 billion, which covers about 66% of all proposed projects and nearly 58% of our total financial need. So as we look at the categories, active transportation, we are fully funding 21 projects at over $676 million, meeting 100% of the identified needs in this category. Highways, this makes up a large share with 86 projects valued at $5.7 billion, covering over half of the category's total need. For travel demand management or parking rides, this includes five projects valued at over $41 million. And transit features 9 projects totaling $1.45 billion, which addresses roughly 2/3 of our regional transportation needs. So as we look back on this process, we've identified a few key lessons learned that will help guide our future public engagement efforts. First, we only received 121 completed surveys. This low response rate points out to a highly complex process. Those who did participate held very specific, strong points of view, which we did factor into our planning. However, because of this turnout, the feedback we received was not truly representative of the entire region. Respondents were overwhelmingly white, lived within the city, and were relatively well-to-do economically. This leaves us with an important question to solve moving forward. How do we make this process more accessible to for each stage, for community members who aren't traditionally involved in regional planning? Finally, we recognize that staff needed to adjust how we describe these projects to the general public. In particular, the term highway projects proved to be a glaring point of contention, suggesting that we need to find clearer, more constructive framing of our future communications. So to wrap up the plan, we can look at our next steps as we move forward to final adoption. First, we need to ensure that the project list undergoes air quality conformity, which we will discuss later on in the presentation. Alongside that, we will be completing a comparative analysis of the list against our future land use scenarios. Our immediate goal is to compile and complete the draft document so they can be ready for review by the advisory work group for our next June meeting. This will kick off an intentional multi-step review process over the summer. The advisory work group will review the document through July. From mid-June to mid-August, we will share the draft plan with our broader stakeholders for their feedback. During this window, we specifically want to evaluate how transparent and understandable this entire process has been for everyone involved. Everything builds towards our final milestone, which is presenting the plan for board approval and official adoption on September 3rd. And I want to open up to any questions. All right, seeing none, we will move right along. This will just be a brief overview of our air quality conformity process. So to provide some critical context on the upcoming air quality step, we need to look at our federal regulatory requirements. Under the Clean Air Act, any federally funded or approved highway and transit project activities must strictly conform to the purpose of the State Implementation Plan, or SIP. In practical terms, this means that we must legally demonstrate that our proposed transportation projects will not cause or contribute any new air quality violations, worsen any existing ones, or delay the timely attainment of the relevant national ambient air quality standards. Historically, the Richmond region did not meet the national 1997 8-hour ozone standard. Back then, emissions from sources like factories, power plants, and vehicles created excessive ground level ozone, which frequently led to unhealthy air days. Fortunately, we've made significant progress since then. When the EPA introduced the 2008 standard of 0.075 parts per million, the Richmond-Petersburg region was clean enough to be designated as an attainment area right from the start. Later, despite the EPA lowering the standards even further in 2015 to a stricter 0.070 parts per million, our region successfully maintained its clean air track record and was officially designated as attainment unclassifiable in 2018. So what does the project list conformity process actually look like in practice? First, it kicks off with an interagency coordination group meeting. These meetings are typically triggered whenever the region is updating our core planning document, specifically the TIP or the Long Range Transportation Plan. For this cycle, the Technical Advisory Committee has been authorized to review the draft conformity report and officially approve it to be released to the public for public comment. And that period runs between May 15th to June 14th. The entire conformity analysis covers two critical pieces of our regional portfolio: the 2050 LRTP consensus scenario that we just discussed, and the upcoming 2027 through FY27 through FY30 Transportation Improvement Program. Do we have any questions so far? All right, awesome. Well, this presentation, this meeting will be fairly short. We wanted to make sure that we updated you on the next steps of our LRTP process and what to be expected coming down the pipe for our next meeting. That will be June 24th. That is the last Wednesday in June. We will be sending out meeting material, meeting minutes, meeting agenda before then, and then we will be providing you with the draft LRTP document for your review. Just want to open up the floor one last time for any questions or concerns. All right, hearing and seeing none, we want to thank you all for your time today. Again, we will be sending out material to you very shortly for your review. And if you have any questions or concerns in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to myself or Miles Bushing regarding the LRTP. If there are no other questions or concerns, we thank you for your time, and I'll give you 40 minutes of your hour back. So thank you all so much for your time, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you, Dorian.
Thank you, Dorian.
Thank you all.
Thank you.